Imagine a country where the internet barely works, ATMs don't exist, and the government controls nearly every aspect of daily life. Welcome to Eritrea, off the east coast of Africa, perhaps the strangest country I've ever visited. Eritrea was once an Italian colony, and they definitely left behind their love for coffee. Not to mention Ethiopia, the birthplace of coffee, is right next door. Put the two together and Eritrea might just be the best coffee country in the world. This is the best cup of coffee I've ever had, the perfect macchiato. Most people have never heard of Eritrea because so few tourists are allowed in. The authoritarian government strictly controls access, requiring detailed visa approvals that are often delayed or denied without explanation. Travelers face constant surveillance and need special permits to leave the capital. It's no wonder many people call Eritrea the North Korea of Africa. There's no freedom of speech, no free press, no social media, and military service can last a lifetime. Yet somehow, Italian culture still lingers from the colonial period. They didn't just bring gelato and architecture, they also brought their religion. It's Sunday morning, so I've made it to a mass here. Eritrea is predominantly a Christian country. People sit outside praying, and I really enjoy the spiritual atmosphere. It's fascinating to think how popular Christianity is here, especially since Eritrea is surrounded by Muslim-majority nations, Egypt, Somalia, and Djibouti. Inside the church, it's equally fascinating. Men and women wear white outfits that cover their bodies, something unique and deeply traditional. I asked someone, "What do you enjoy about your country and culture?" He replied, "The culture in Eritrea is integrated between the 9 ethnic groups. It's the most peaceful place, as you can see." He lives in the US now, but often returns to Eritrea. I asked, "What is it like going back and forth?" He answered, "For me, it's like a time of cleansing from social media. I don't see it as a shortcoming." And he's right. To get Wi-Fi in Eritrea is like stepping back into the 1990s. You walk inside an internet cafe, and at a cafe, you pay $2 and get a scratch card with a password. The connection is so slow that it takes minutes to send one email. This is just one of the many ways Eritrea feels truly stuck in the past. Even if you want to take out a mortgage in Eritrea, you can't. There's no such thing. No money loans, no credit. Eritrea is a 100% cash-only society. That means no credit cards, no bank transfers, no mobile payment apps. You have to use cold hard cash for everything. Pretty crazy. I'm excited to explore more of Asmara. But before we go anywhere, my driver hands me my passport and visa, which he picked up from the airport. It's nice to finally be legal here. Now we're on our way to this retro bowling alley and sports complex where all the locals hang out. Stepping inside feels like entering a time machine back to the 1950s. This place is amazing. There's a video game section, people playing billiards, and of course bowling. The walls are decorated with old photos, Italian men competing in bowling tournaments alongside Eritrean men. It's really cool to see. Nothing here is digital or electronic, everything is manual. Scoring is done by hand, and when the pins fall, a little kid runs out to reset them. Look at the bowling ball. It only has one hole. This vintage sports center is one of the best parts about Eritrea. So old school, so nostalgic, you feel like you're living 5 decades ago. I meet some guys from the Rashida tribe, the smallest tribe in Eritrea. One of them is just 16 years old and already married. "How long have you been married?" I ask. "4 months ago," he replies. Then I ask his friend, "How old are you?" He says, 15. I laugh and say, "Well, I'm 33 and I just have a fiancé." At the back of the bowling alley is the coolest part, kids manually setting up the pins and rolling the balls back. There's even a graveyard of broken bowling balls. I sit with my legs tucked in as someone bowls, otherwise I might lose a toe. "Man, I'm gonna lose my fingers, bro," I joke. After hanging out at the bowling alley, I start working up an appetite. Time to dive into the local flavors of this incredible country. I'm with my new Eritrean friends. I actually met Fado on the plane yesterday. "How do you say your name?" I ask. "Hi," she laughs. "That's a cool name. And you?" "Naami." Neither of them grew up in Eritrea. "Where did you grow up?" I ask. No, we were raised everywhere," they say. "And what's it like living back here now?" "It's almost like where the heart is." My heart is here, so I love that. We're now at Janti's. I don't even know what Janti's is, but I'm into it. The food looks incredible. A colorful plate arrives and one dish stands out. Full, the spicy version. I don't remember it being this spicy before, but it's delicious. The owner insists we try his honey. "Whoa, is it sweet?" I ask. "Yeah, super sweet." As we eat, I ask my friends what it's like telling people abroad that they're from Eritrea. "Most people don't even know where that is," I say. "For me," one explains, "it feels like having a platform to speak about my culture. Since not many people know Eritrea, I can tell them anything." The hospitality here is next level. The owner keeps bringing us more food, and it's not just because we're on camera, he's genuinely like that. In such good company, I could eat another whole plate, but I have to save room for dessert. On the other side of town, I find a gelato shop that feels like stepping straight into Italy. The taste is perfect. Outside, I meet another friendly local who shares what life is like here. Life is good, you see? Maybe we're not extravagant, but we live a normal life. You've spent your whole life in Eritrea? I ask. Yeah. So, you grew up in the 60s and 70s. For me, being here feels like going back in time. Does it feel the same for you? Of course it's different times, different opportunities, but everything here is old style. We don't have modern things, but we enjoy it. Finally, I ask him, if you could give one message to the world, what would it be? Better to live peacefully. Peace is the most important thing. Hearing that from a local says everything about Eritrea today. In 1991, Eritrea gained independence after 350 years of colonization. First under the Ottomans, then Egyptians, Italians, and finally Ethiopians. In 1998, a brutal conflict with Ethiopia killed tens of thousands and froze relations for 2 decades. Since independence, Eritrea has been ruled by President Isaias Afwerki, who turned the nation into a tightly controlled one-party state. So while the guns may have gone silent, Eritrea still isn't free. Now I've entered the massive tank graveyard. These rusting machines were left behind from the war with Ethiopia. Thousands of tanks now sit abandoned, swallowed by nature. It's a sad, haunting sight. Once weapons of terror, now just relics of the past. Of too much terror and power, at the end of the day, they won the game. And this is just the memories? Yes, the memory. They don't want to sell them or destroy them, they just want to keep them. These tanks were found all over Eritrea during the war, but the most important part was a city called Massawa. It's on the port of the Red Sea. Over time, many different empires colonized Massawa until the huge war in 1990 when the Iranians were pushed out. Nowadays, if you go to Massawa, all the buildings are just left as they are, similar to how these tanks are left behind. It's absolutely bizarre, but also a really cool place to visit. There are loads of prickly pear cacti that remind me of home in Arizona. They look exactly the same. All these kids are helping me take out the thorns. Thank you. It reminds me of growing up when I was playing in my front yard, fell into a cactus and the thorns went into my leg. At least I had pants on. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a good time so far in Asmara, but now we're heading north to a town called Keren. It's actually the second biggest city in Eritrea. Along the way, we'll stop at some little villages and try to get a deeper understanding of the beautiful culture here. Stopping in a small village somewhere between Asmara and Keren, the houses look fascinating. Almost like people lived here 1,000 years ago and nothing has changed. The village is split between Islam and Christianity. You can tell because the Christian homes have little crosses on top. The greetings here are warm, people kiss each other. Life is so basic and peaceful, no internet, no running water, just people living the same way they have for centuries. They aren't worried about politics, social media, or materialistic things. It's a simple life full of smiles. One very sweet old lady invited us in for coffee, and of course we couldn't say no. She prepared a traditional coffee ceremony. Everything here is handmade by the women, even though they do have solar-powered electricity. The lady making coffee for me was so kind. Honestly, this is one of the coolest experiences I've had in this part of the world. Do you enjoy life in the village? She doesn't speak much Tigrinya, so communication is difficult, just a few words here and there. It's incredible to think that only 2 hours away from Asmara, people speak so differently that you can't even communicate. This is called injera, the staple dish eaten with every meal in Eritrea. It's a spongy, sour flatbread made from fermented teff flour, and you use it to scoop up stews and salads. Then came fresh ginger coffee from the lovely lady. Wow, it was so strong and sweet, unlike anything I've ever had. Just one tiny cup is enough to wake you up. In the US, we drink massive watered-down cups, but here, one sip does the trick. We were told about a wedding happening in a nearby village. Hard to say no to that, but first I'm visiting the camel market in Eritrea's second-largest city, Keren. The craziest part is that tourists usually aren't allowed here, but luckily, my guide from Young Pioneer Tours got me access. So far, it's pretty cool, clean, full of friendly people, and it feels much more tribal and authentic compared to Asmara. Keren is the real deal, traditional, vibrant, and alive with community. We passed a shop where men sat on chairs watching the news on TV. Remember, most people don't have internet on their phones and many don't have a TV at home. This is how they get information. Now let's talk about the toilets in Eritrea. Honestly, pretty rough. It's hard to breathe in there, but hey, it's part of the experience. With all the food I've been eating, I've had to use them a lot. And then, the camels. Oh my God, there are so many camels here. I'm surrounded by them. One was even drinking water with its tongue. I've been to many camel markets around the world, but this one stands out because people are so friendly. They don't mind if I shake hands or take photos. In other markets, owners are much more protective. How much is this camel? About $1,100. We didn't stop there. There's also an ass market nearby. From the camel and donkey market, if you climb the stairs over a fence, you'll find a massive livestock market stretching all the way to the mountain. It might be the largest I've ever seen in my life. The scene is chaotic, everyone whacking their animals with sticks, dust filling the air. It gets into your eyes, nose, and mouth. We climb to the top of a hill where there's a small tea stall overlooking the market. Sitting down with the men, sharing peanuts and tea and watching the bustling trade below was unforgettable. The tea is spiced with cinnamon. What I love about Eritrea's tea and coffee culture is that every cup is slightly different. You never get the same taste twice. The lady had her own recipe, and along with it we were given a handful of peanuts. They were really good. 2 cups of chai and some peanuts for just $1. It wasn't bad at all. That's how things worked here. Someone simply reached through a hole in the wall to serve the dishes. Eritrea just kept on giving. At this point, though, I would have been disappointed if we couldn't find the wedding. So we headed back to the village to talk to locals and figure out where the celebration was. The village, called Halib Bental, was a larger version of the one we had just come from, slightly more modern houses but still traditional, and it was full of children, at least 50 of them running around behind me. It was here that I met Abdul Maji, an 11-year-old boy who spoke 7 languages. He had learned English and Italian from offline apps on his phone, which had been preloaded in China. Despite his age, he was already guiding us confidently through the village and even drove a Toyota. He agreed to take us to the wedding since we had no idea where to go. On the way, he explained how the men and women were separated before the ceremony. The groom was hidden among the men while the bride remained inside the houses. Soon I found myself in the women's section. They were laughing, singing, and even yodeling. Large clay pots filled with fermented beer were brought out, and I was encouraged to try it. The taste was sour and unfamiliar, something I'd tried before in other parts of Africa. But out of respect, I smiled and thanked them. As I sat among them, people began asking me questions. It was as if they had never seen a tourist before, and judging by how remote this village was, I believed it. The children proudly showed me their homes, their animals, and even introduced me to their families. Abdul's mother invited us inside for food and coffee. Despite being a widow raising 9 children on her own, she welcomed us with warmth and generosity. Coffee here was more than just a drink, it was an experience. As the beans roasted, she let us smell the aroma before preparing it. What amazed me most was that coffee was served at night. I couldn't understand how they managed to sleep afterward. Moments like these are what truly define travel. You can't fully appreciate or understand a culture until you're welcomed into someone's home. Whether you're invited in, knock on a door, or find a connection through a friend, those experiences are the ones that stay with you. As night approached, we waited for the wedding festivities to begin. The atmosphere felt like the calm before the storm. I knew this moment, meeting Abdul, being welcomed by his family, sharing coffee in their home, would forever be my most cherished memory of Eritrea. When the wedding finally began, the entire community came together. What struck me immediately was that nobody smoked. In almost any other country, gatherings of older men meant cigarettes everywhere. But here, people simply drank, drummed, and laughed together. Out of respect for their community, smoking just wasn't part of the culture. The ceremony started with the bride and groom arriving in traditional dress. Men and women separated once again. The women danced in circles, clapping and singing, while the men gathered with hunting sticks, stomping the ground in rhythm. It was part celebration, part ritual, but entirely about togetherness. Eventually, the men and women joined as one, and the energy rose higher. At one point, a drunken man stumbled into the crowd. Everyone laughed as his friend escorted him out. It was a reminder that weddings everywhere share similar moments, no matter the culture. Eritrea might be one of the world's strangest countries, but beneath its reputation, I found something unexpected, an incredible warmth. The people were kind, welcoming, and deeply proud of their culture, and that, more than anything else, is what I will always remember. Thanks for watching till the end. Please like, share, and subscribe.